We continue to provide expert analysis that shows that war with Iran would be bad for the United States. It is not necessary. It is illegal. It is unconstitutional, and it would be bad for everybody. We keep showing in recent days, we've shown additionally how a military analysis shows that the amount of combat power we have in the region is insufficient to get a regime change that we're talking about, absent any kind of a potential boots on the ground option, which itself would be catastrophic. But without that, even theoretically, there is no path to a military victory. We would have to hope that the Iranians would receive enough missiles or enough threats and that they would simply capitulate to what we want them to do. That's the hope. That is an unfounded hope, because we're not talking about another Nicolas Maduro. We're not talking about a Nigeria. We're not even talking about Iran the first time, because that was a limited duration strike, and by all accounts, and a lot of accounts indicate that was actually something that was coordinated and communicated ahead of time, that there was an agreement on the two sides before any shots were fired. That's not likely to be the case again. If we go forward with this attack, there is every reason to think that it will go sideways, that it will not go smooth, it will not be quick, it will not be clean, it will not produce a good outcome, and probably will produce dead Americans. This thing could go from bad to much, much worse. But the signs, unfortunately, coming out of Washington, D.C., are that our warnings are going unheeded, is that our analysis is not being given credibility, apparently, within the administration. I'm sure we're not the only ones given this kind of analysis, that we don't have enough combat power to produce the political outcome that is at least reported that what the administration is going after, which is a regime change. However, on Friday afternoon, Dropsite News announced that despite our best advice and what we think should happen, that a U.S. military exclusive U.S. military tells key Middle East ally to prepare for an attack on Iran. In addition to military targets, Trump is considering strikes on senior Iranian leaders with the aim of spurring the overthrow of the Iranian government. When you dig down just a little bit deeper into the article, we see that according to this source, this isn't about the nukes or the missile program. This is about regime change, said a former U.S. senior intelligence official who consults for Arab governments and is an informal advisor to the Trump administration on Middle East policy. He told Dropsite News that the U.S. war planners envision attacks that target nuclear, ballistic, and other military sites around Iran, but will also aim to decapitate the Iranian government, and in particular, the leadership and capabilities of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. The IRGC is a branch of the Iranian armed forces created after the country's 79 revolution. The thinking in the Trump administration, according to the source, is that a successful strike on Iranian leadership would be followed by Iranians returning to the streets to protest, leading to the overthrow of the government. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is, quote, hoping for an attack, the former senior intelligence official said, and, quote, assuring Trump that Israel can help put in place a new government that is friendly to the West. That seems to be the hope, but that is more like a hope and a prayer. As our analysis is shown, you can look on our show just yesterday afternoon. We did a show talking about an analysis of how much combat power is in an aircraft carrier strike group of the Abraham Lincoln, how much is additionally throughout the region at our land-based outposts, and how much combat power we have in the air and in the missile. It is limited. And when you're talking a country that is 4 times bigger than Iraq, and when you're talking about somebody that's already been attacked by us in the past, and they understand how we attack, they know what happened last year, they have learned from their mistakes, and many of the times when they have been hit hard and hurt, they have learned from those, just like any organization does. They have dispersed their firepower, they have dispersed their offensive capabilities, and they have hardened their defensive capacities. If we go in and we fail, as Steve Jeremy, Commodore Steve Jeremy told us yesterday, we have maybe 4 or 5 days of full-on air power and missile power. After that, we have to get refueled. And it's going to take a long time to go. I think Diego Garcia is the closest place that we could get our destroyers and our missile carriers replenished, because that's something that's very, very difficult to do at sea. It's unclear that we have that kind of plan, or however many Tomahawk cruise missiles we may have, or other kinds of air offensive or defensive missiles we have with us. It's not clear that that's going to be enough to get the job done. And if you're talking about regime change, you have to just hope that you launch a few missiles here and there, and that turns out to be enough, and that the Iranians just quit, or that the Iranian people just rise up. These are all hopes and prayers. We used to have this saying in the U.S. Army that hope is not a method. You can't just hope that it works out here and launch an operation and then depend upon hope. And yet, it appears at the strategic level, that is exactly what the United States is doing. That's what it appears the president is doing. Now, in conjunction with that statement there, in the drop site news, there was also yesterday afternoon another statement by General Jack Keane. Now, General Jack Keane is not just somebody on TV. He's somebody that has close coordination with the administration, and his opinion is listened to a lot of people. He's also very well connected. So when he says stuff that's in line with what this other report that we're hearing, it's something we should pay attention to. Now, here you see we're laying the public foundation for why this is necessary or even useful, and that is, of course, that the Ayatollah is diabolical.
He wants to dominate and control the Middle East and export his radical form of fundamentalist Islamic terrorism to the world. I mean, they haven't changed one bit. They still want to pursue a nuclear weapon. They still want to support the proxies that are in the region to destabilize the region and take down Israel. And they have a ballistic missile program that is growing every single day. Obviously, that threatens Israel and potentially our bases in the region. And that's where they are. He has emissaries that talk nice to our people, but that's where the leadership really is. And they've been like this for 45 plus years. I mean,
45 plus years, he says. That's how long they've been like this. But listen to what he's talking about. For 45 years, they've been trying to defend themselves. And he says that you can't trust them. They're not going to do anything. They're diabolical. All they want to do is destabilize the Middle East. Like, that's their actual objective. They exist in order to destabilize. That's what you're being asked to believe. And he says, they still want to have a nuclear program. Okay, last year we attacked, and President Trump said it was obliterated. The nuclear program was obliterated, set back many, many years, and it couldn't do anything else. Even though our intelligence and Western intelligence and any intelligence that I have ever even seen public said that there is no nuclear weapons program, that they have never had one, that they never wanted one, and that they had a fatwa against one. And yet now then, with no evidence, he simply just states as a fact, they're still going to get it. Just trust me, he says. They're still going to do it. Let's go to war because of what I tell you. Don't worry about that it contradicts even our own intelligence. Forget about that there's no actual evidence of anybody saying that they're reprocessing a nuclear, or they're creating a nuclear weapons program. Just trust me. And that's a good reason to go to war. And then, of course, he says, this is just who they are. They want to destabilize everything, but everything that they've been doing is trying to not destabilize everything. What they have been doing is trying to hold off the attacks that they've been getting from Israel, hold off on the attacks that they've been getting from the United States, and to hold their own. That's what the evidence shows that they've been doing. But you see that there are those who just cannot live if Iran lives. And so now they have to manufacture all these reasons. And this is the worst of what happened in 2003, 2002, and 2003, heading into the Operation Iraqi Freedom, weapons of mass destruction, and all that. And you saw how much length that the administration went to back then, of the Bush administration, to convince everybody all this threat that Saddam Hussein posed. Of course, we know it turned out to be nothing at all, and it was all manufactured. Well, this is worse than that, because they're hardly doing any work at all. Just a handful of comments like this, or Trump going on to some of these speeches that he makes and saying, we have this big, beautiful armada that's going out there, and it gets applause and everything. They're not even worried about it. I hope they make a deal, not even pretending that there's actually a reason. That's one of the things that's hallmark of this. This stuff that Jack Keane just talked about here a minute ago is barely even thin gruel. Most of the time, it's like Trump, I'm offering them a deal. They have to do this. No enrichment, no missile program, and no proxies in the region. which is all basically their version of a triad for their national security. They depend upon that. That's how they defend themselves. And so to say, well, that's a negotiation that they have to do. They have to give us that. They have to basically completely denude themselves and surrender, or we're going to go in. Of course, there's no basis for that. There's no international basis for that. There's no constitutional basis for that. There's no human basis for that. Nobody can say, I'm going to go and kill this person and I'm going to get rid of that regime because I don't like them. I have power, so I'm going to take it from them, and it's okay. Everything about the United States used to be, we were opposed to that. Might makes right. We were opposed to that. We condemned others who had that, who acted down that way in the past. And there's been no shortage of people in the world that have done that. Now we're celebrating it.
You look at the hard, cold facts here. Iran has never been weaker than they are right now in their entire history since this regime took power in 1980. Politically, economically, and militarily. And we have an opportunity here to really set some conditions for the eventual regime collapse. And that's why the military option is on the table.
So there you have it, just flat out. That's what he's trying to tell you. Regime collapse. That's what this is all about. So we have this combat power in the region, and all these things have done, and that lines up with what we saw in the drop site news. So what they're saying that they heard from other of their sources, former intelligence officials in the United States that are advising Arab regimes, be ready for a strike. According to the article, it said a strike could come as early as this Sunday, tomorrow. So all this could be coming to fruition. We just have to hope that in this 11th hour that something could be done inside the administration where President Trump recognizes that the risks are extraordinary. The possibilities of success are minuscule. I would even go so far as to say there are no possibilities of success. If you say the baseline of where we are right now, as you're watching this video, right now on Saturday, the 31st of January, the conditions that exist right now and our posture, where our power is, none of our ships have been hit. None of our planes have been knocked down. None of our troops have been killed. None of our bases have been attacked. No Israelis have been killed. No Israeli cities have been hit. No military targets, no civilian targets, nothing. Right now, everything is status quo. We have the upper hand, and the chances of Iran attacking us, an unprovoked attack, are minuscule, if not zero at this point, because they know then they would be attacked, and then everybody in the world would agree with the attack, and they would have no support. So they don't want to do that. And so they don't want to have an attack. They want the status quo to continue on. But if we break the status quo, and if President Trump orders this attack, not only will it be unconstitutional, not only will it be illegal, it would be absurd to the highest degree, because they're almost the only possibility is that our condition will be worsened. See, I think that President Trump thinks that because, in his view, the operation in Venezuela was so successful, lost not one airplane, not one helicopter, not one troop, complete success. We got the target. We got him out. He's brought back, big win for President Trump. That's what he likes. Big splashy event, makes us look good, makes us look like powerful, like nobody can stop us. That's something that he's looking for. That's not in the cards here. The big likelihood, is that the opposite is going to happen, that it's going to be very ugly. It's going to be very messy, very chaotic. There very well could be American warships hit. There could be American planes knocked down, especially if we get into their airspace. We could definitely have American troops throughout the region that are killed and wounded. And of course, once any of that happens, now it's a full-on war. Then you'll probably get Congress making a declaration of war. Or at least you might. Sanity might still, the reality actually might splash in, and then a cold, hard dose of it. And they may think, oh, hell no, I'm not going to get bogged down in here, because there will be a cry from many. This is, now we have to go get them. Now we have to go get those bastards, right? You can imagine something like that being said. Send some boots on the ground. Folks, that would be a calamity of the highest order. We don't have enough ground troops in our total active forces to be able to handle a war like that, even if we wanted to fight it, which we, God forbid that we should, because we don't have the wherewithal, and it would take more than it would literally suck down the entire defensive ability of the United States and make us vulnerable everywhere else on the globe. It would put our national security, our literal existential threat it would pose to us, self-inflicted. That's the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is that we only lose a few troops and have a huge embarrassment and then have to withdraw shortly thereafter. But once you start getting casualties, the rally around the flag thing kicks in, patriotism kicks in, people stop thinking clearly, and they just think, how dare they kill Americans? Let's go kill them all. And there's going to be this drive to do that. Many people are going to want to. The emotions can be whipped up easily, and it will be really hard to tamp that down. One of the reasons I'm making this video right now, because in the event that we go to war and we get hit and people start making these comments, I'm going to put this video right out there, and I'm going to tell everybody, look, I was trying to warn you before this happened. Do not do this thing now. I warned you, this was going to be the risk that we took by starting a war here. Now it's happened. If I'm showing this video in the future, and there's this call for more war. All we would do then is to deepen our strategic failure. And the cost could be unimaginable. It could get a lot worse. It could actually make others around the world look around and say, America is not just distracted here, they are really weak. And they're almost a non-factor here because they can't sustain this fight and anything else. Anything else. Don't start it. They could also make even our allies say, man, you guys are off the charts crazy. You're self-defeating yourself. I'm not going to get sucked into this. Nobody else is going to join us in a war. Do you think that there's a reason why right now it's not even the U.S. and Israel together? It's not the U.S. and Saudi Arabia or any other Arab regime. Do you realize that? It's something to pay attention to right now, today, while you're watching this live. There is nobody else joining us. Why? If there's such an existential threat, if there's such a big reason for this, why is there not an alliance with us? There's a reason why there's not, because it's crazy. It makes no sense. There's nothing to gain. There is no threat that this is supposed to stop. This is just a handful of people who are lusting for war with Iran. They have been doing it for so long, and they are so myopic, they can't see anything except their lust for blood. And they want to see the destruction of Iran, even though we can't rationally do it, even though there's no reason to do it. They can't see beyond that. And they are potentially going to plunge the whole United States into a war that should never be fought and that we may not be able to win. Because understand this, Iran just has to not lose. We have to win. Anything short of a military victory of a war we start will be seen correctly as a loss and a failure. That's what we ended up doing in Afghanistan. And that was just embarrassing, but it didn't cost a whole lot. This one would be radically different because unlike all these other wars, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, even Iran the first time, these time they can hit back. They could have hit back in last year, but they chose not to because they were trying to prevent it from escalating. But now then they appear to have calculated there is no more reason to hold back. That it's just a matter of time until they eventually get destroyed. When you have people like Jack Keane saying this, Lindsey Graham saying this is all about regime change, we've got to go kill them. What is anybody left to do then? You realize by saying these things, you take away any kind of hope that these guys have to self-deter or to self-limit their response. Because literally their lives are at stake. The regime is at stake. And when it's strike or die, and you have the wherewithal, you're going to strike. You're not going to leave it on there. I mean, that's part of one of the complaints that a lot of people had with Hassan Nasrallah of Hezbollah, that he had a lot of missile power or rocket power when Israel was moving against him. And he withheld it because he's like, well, let me hold off on it a little longer. And then he gets assassinated. And the rockets, for the most part, never got used, certainly not in any number. If he allegedly had these 100,000 plus rockets, if they really had them, then he looks like a fool because he went to his grave with them still in the launch pad. I doubt that Iran will make that mistake. We shouldn't gamble on the fact that, on the hope that they do, because it sure sounds like Jack Keane is operating on a hope and a prayer. And it sounds like the White House is operating on a hope and a prayer, just ignoring all of this sound military advice. that the likes we had yesterday from Steve Jeremy, Commodore Steve Jeremy, who himself has naval combat experience and air combat experience in the Falklands War, has studied it a lot, was part of the Allies, did some of the operations we've done in the 2003 war, for example. So he really does know what he's talking about, his experience. People need to listen to him, and I hope that we do while we still have a chance. Let's hope that we come back to you live on Monday morning and we talk about there's still a possibility that there hasn't been any war elect. That's what I'm hoping, because the alternative is pretty sad if it doesn't work out the right way. Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate you being with us on a Saturday. We'll be back with you shortly for the intelligence brief, and we'll see you then on the Daniel Davis Deep Dive.